All right, welcome in an end of March edition of BloodHorse Monday. His name's Sean. My name is Louie. Thanks for hanging out with us. Yet another edition of the program. We are post Florida Derby. We are post Arkansas Derby. Bleep is getting real. Sean Collins, how are you, man?
33 days away from the Kentucky Derby right now. We're getting closer and closer. We have 3 horses on site that I know of right now in full effort and Stark Contrast and Chipancho.
Okay.
So those are the 3 that I know of are at the track right now, and hopefully we'll be getting a couple more coming in.
Nice and easy slide of Stark Contrast in that group.
Right, he's still on the point board right now. We'll see.
We also think his next start is almost certainly in the state of Kentucky.
It's going to be either
whether at Keeneland or
right. It's going to be either the American Turf or the Kentucky Derby. Right now, the last I talked to one of the assistants there at Churchill Downs, they still haven't made the official decision yet. So at this point, why make the official decision? You don't really have to come up with that choice for a couple more weeks yet until we draw the post 1 week before the Derby. At least see how he works on the dirt the next couple weeks and go from there. So so right now he's still in the field. We'll see whether or not that holds. But interesting weekend this weekend, because not only was it the races, but we also got the huge news of Paladin being out of the Kentucky Derby after getting an ankle injury in his final grease for the Bluegrass. So it looked like things were pretty wide open heading into the races, and maybe are not wide open after the races.
Well, so here's the thing is, in every Derby class, I think we do this every year, by the way. Yeah. I think there are 4 or 5 top contenders, and then you just have to decide if that's the year that one of those horses isn't going to win for your wagers.
Yeah.
That's essentially how this works. And I think we were down to like Paladin, Renegade, maybe a Commandment, or some assortment of those Florida Derby horses in that kind of field, and then maybe we're going to meet one this weekend, right? That's always a possibility. That very last weekend. Maybe, the one that I keep coming back to, we'll do this at the end of the show, is if Potente really puts it together in the Santa Anita Derby, and we get a Baffert that's really great, who doesn't run like a Baffert, right? He's not on the front, just come catch me kind of thing. He could really add to the intrigue of this race. But I don't think you're wrong in that we see Commandment win the Florida Derby, 150 points going into the Derby starting gate. In any year, that is your favorite. That is we get Brad Cox, very likely going to get Flavia Pratt aboard that one, right? Like, that's a no-brainer sort of thing. Flavia Pratt took Baeza to 3rd place and Country House to a win through DQ. At worst, you could say Country House ran 2nd, right? Yeah. If Flavia Pratt can do that in the Kentucky Derby, I'm sure he'll be fine on Commandment.
Yes.
Okay.
He'll be just okay.
The son of Into Mischief orb on the damn side, I think he'll be fine. And so this is the interesting part of this is Renegade goes ahead and wins the Arkansas Derby. You've seen these horses in person.
I have.
I know who you prefer.
Yeah, who do you think I prefer?
Renegade.
Yes, I do.
And I think it's not close for you, frankly.
No. Well, and it's interesting. If you listened to the show last week before the race, you would have heard me kind of critiquing the fact that people were crowning him the Derby champion on Twitter before he even ran the final prep race. I will fully admit I was not on the Renegade bandwagon before Saturday. And I am fully on the Renegade bandwagon now after Saturday. But it's not just because of the performance.
Okay.
I want to point that out. And
by the way, we will talk with the owner and breeder of Renegade to open the show today. Of course, the Lowe family there. We'll get to them in just a couple minutes, frankly.
Yeah. But it wasn't just the performance that won me over from him. So let me take you through my Saturday while I was at Oaklawn Park. So
settle in for story time.
Yes, story time.
It's time for story time with Sean.
No, So I watched the Florida Derby on my phone and I think there were 2 races before the Arkansas Derby at the time that ran.
Yes.
And I saw how big of a performance the Puma ran. And so suddenly in my mind, seeing him run as well as he did on that short rest, and obviously he was behind Renegade in the Sam Davis back in February. And so that made me start thinking in my mind, I was like, okay, maybe Renegade is going to run a little bit better than I was expecting.
I like the thought process so far. Yep.
So I think about that, and then I get into the paddock at Oaklawn, and I see Renegade walking around in the paddock. And every time he came around, just the look in his eye, the way he was looking around at everything, to me, it showed a sign of intelligence that I haven't seen in a lot of the other prep races that I've been to. And so
from him specifically, or sort of generally from
from him. Well, for this year.
The 3-year crop. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I saw that it looked like a level of intelligence I hadn't been seeing as the horses were walking around the paddock. He was taking everything in. He was looking at everything. That continued when he went out onto the grass course. Then he goes out and runs the performance an amazing performance in the race. And I've spoken very highly of Silent Tactic on the show many times before. He blew right past him like it was nothing in the stretch. So that was obviously impressive. But then after that, when he comes back to the winner's circle again, just the look in his eye as he's walking around, he's like, no big deal. Taking it all in, taking a look around. I got a, just a nice look of him just acting like he was the champion. That's what won me over. It wasn't necessarily the race. It was seeing the way he was acting and the intelligence in his eyes before the race and then after the race. That's what's put me on the Renegade bandwagon now as we move forward through the next less than 6 weeks or 5 weeks.
It is always amazing when you're in the paddock and you can just tell one of the competitors there is just ready.
Mm-hmm.
They're just ready. You and I have mentioned it many times on this program, but when they paraded Torpedo Anna, they would get close to the tunnel to go to the track at Churchill. She's pulling on 2 handlers just to get out on the track. And it's those kinds of equine athletes that we all get really excited about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember being a Breeders' Cup with you and Barry and just a real, like, Barry's looking at She's So Spicy, like, we're done here.
Yeah.
She's winning this race. And it was just one of those where he was totally right.
Yep.
But once in a while, that paddock look from a horse, when they give you that look like, oh, okay, there's by the way, congratulations on the on-track attendance at Oakland.
73,000 people at Oakland. I believe that's an Arkansas Derby record. So the fact that he handled that as easily as he did, it didn't faze him at all. I mean, that's got to give you a lot of hope for how he's going to be able to handle everything on the first Saturday of May. Because that's a huge part of the puzzle is how they handle all the extra that comes with the Kentucky Derby. And boy, did he handle it at Oakland. And I said I was skeptical about him last week before the Arkansas Derby. Now that I've seen him in person, I've seen how he's acted, and I saw that performance. I'm fully on the Renegade bandwagon now as we're moving toward the Derby.
Florida Derby, we see 4 runners in this race, Sean, that many of us had very near the top of our rankings for 3-year-olds this year.
Mm-hmm.
Commandment gets the win. I don't think a surprise to anyone. He was second favorite here, but there was a group of 3 horses that were all essentially even money or less. I mean, at that point, or less than 2-1 for sure between him nearly and Chief Wallaby. I was on Chief Wallaby this year. I thought he was the progressive type that might pick this race off. Shame on me for doubting Brad Cox in the Florida Derby, but here we are again.
Well, as he said, you stick to radio and he'll train the horses. That's what he told you after the Fountain of Youth.
Brad Cox on my radio show tomorrow at 11 o'clock. But yes, he gets the win in Florida with Commandment. He's going to have 17 of the 20 horses in the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby. It's an amazing thing that Brad Cox is doing.
17's a bad number in the Derby.
There you are. Sorry, Brad. He's going to listen to this. He's going to be like, just stick to radio. But no, the performance there, he's a contender for sure for me. The Puma with 5 weeks off is a fascinating freaking horse. And if you think about what Mage did a couple of years ago, the story is not different. And guess what the connections are? Almost identical.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this actually sets up as a Mage 2.0 for sure. Just a heads up. I mean, something to watch for sure moving forward with the Puma.
Yeah, the Puma really impressed me this weekend. I didn't really know what to think of him going toward the Derby, but he showed this weekend that he really can be considered one of the top horses going into it. I mean, we talked so much about Commandment, Chief Wallaby nearly going into this race.
Yep.
He beat 2 of them and lost to the other one by a note. Was really on a head bob. So different stride, and he maybe wins that race. And so I think, and coming off the short rest. So I was very impressed with him. As you said, he's going to get the full 5 weeks now.
Yep.
And as I said earlier, that just flatters Renegade even more, the fact that Renegade beat him back in the Sam Davis. And so it does, I think I mentioned on the show last week, it seems like we're going to have a really top-heavy Derby.
Sure.
Where the top horses are going to, it feels like one of those years where we have, like, as you said earlier, maybe 5 or 6 horses that are going to be kind of who we're looking at. I think the Puma is definitely going to end up being one of them now.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. No, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you can't look at that, and especially with the connections and seeing how they've done this before, you can't look at that and say that this is not an improving horse that can fight with the best of them going into this, especially now with Paladin not there. And we've now seen several of the top competitors face each other in the Florida Derby and see them all finish very close to each other. I think you got to really be looking at the Puma here for sure.
Nearly is 19th in points. He's going to get past this weekend.
He actually already is past because of the
the Japanese
invitations.
Right. Okay,
yeah, so he's in 22nd, I think, right now because of the 3 invitations. It sounds like all 3 of those horses are coming.
Right, owned by Centennial Farms, all the things. Nearly to all of us, we see the talent. We know it's there. We know he's athletic. All of the things. Can I make a prediction for Nearly this year?
Yes, you can.
I think he's very similar to a Gosger type.
Okay.
And I think Pletcher knows that. I think his next start will be in something like Oscar did with the Lexington last year.
Okay.
I think that kind of spot makes a lot of sense, get some confidence in him. He's going to be the best horse in that race if he goes, right?
Well, I don't know about the Lexington just because of the timing, but I could see this being like a Peter Pan Belmont horse if they decide not to go to the Derby.
That was the other route, because you're right. You know what? You're probably more right because it's Pletcher and he's not going to shoot for Baltimore.
Yeah.
Right. If this were a Chad Brown trainee or a Brad Cox trainee, that might be the obvious route.
Yeah.
Frankly, right. Or a Safi trainee or whatever. Someone east of the Rockies, Cassie, Asmussen, whatever. I'm fascinated to watch nearly the rest of the year, though. But I do think if you're Pletcher, you're just thinking, I'll make him a Saratoga horse.
Yeah.
Right. I'll just make him a Saratoga horse. We'll figure it out this summer. The Peter Pan, though, I had not put that on the top of my list, but I'm going to now. I think it makes a lot of sense for him. So hopefully, what I'm saying is, we always think we know what the 3-year-old class is, and then we don't. And here we are again. I think, though, by the time we get to the summer, we'll have another fun year 3-year-old.
Yeah, I think so. And we had Don Little on the show after nearly won the Holy Bowl, and he said back then, we're not going to force him into the Derby, depending on how the last prep race goes. We'll see how the points shake out, whether or not he gets in. But they're okay with sitting back. And Don talked to us quite a bit about his love of Saratoga, being from up in that region.
Yep.
So they might be thinking, let's just pack it in for the Derby. Let's try to maybe get that Belmont at Saratoga. Let's keep him ready for the Travers, the Jim Dandy, and those kind of races. So I think we could definitely still see big things from him down the line.
And we always forget the Haskell's just down the road. Like, they can figure that out, right? Pennsylvania Derby is available if you need a grade 1 option at the end of the year, that sort of thing. So there are, for a horse like Nearly, this year is far from over for sure because of a 4th place finish in the Florida Derby. But hey, you were at the Arkansas Derby.
I was.
You bought all in on Renegade. Do you know who else bought all in on Renegade?
I think Robert Lowe did.
Robert Lowe did. That's exactly right. He was also smart enough to breed the horse. Robert, good day to you. Thanks so much for joining us on BloodHorse Monday. How are you?
You're very welcome. I'm good. I'm great. I mean, how could I not be?
My man's dominating. That's right. This is one of my favorite times of year to do this show, Sean, because we get to meet people like Robert who are just having the best 4 or 5 days of their life. That's exactly right. Now, you've gotten to do this before, though, Robert. You've had this moment before. What was it like on Saturday, though?
Oh, I tell you what, it was incredible. We just had a smooth trip down. We brought down 3 plane loads of folks. So we had about 50 folks, and the Oaklawn people were very accommodating. And as you know, that's kind of where we grew up in racing down there. So we love that place. People are friendly. Venue is super. And I might say, they're making it better every year. Purses are great. So everything worked out smoothly, and we had a great time. All our folks had a great time. Naturally, the winning the race was like the icing on the cake.
Well, you mentioned how important Oaklawn is to you and your family. What was it like now having the biggest win in front of the biggest crowd in Oaklawn Park history?
It was, the crowd was it was over the top. So, I'm glad we had some nice seating arranged, because out there, when I started out down there, I sat on the steps. I mean, where the steps are.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my wife and I, when we started going, we would fight for a location down there on the steps. And, we thought that was pretty all right. If there's room to sit down, it was pretty all right. At least we weren't standing. But, that was a while back. And fortunately, we've been able to obtain better seating nowadays.
Robert Lowe with us in the ownership group of Renegade.
Yeah. Well, Robert, you guys bred this horse. Was it he one that kind of tipped himself early on that he was going to be something special?
Yeah, when he was here at the farm as a weanling and later on as a yearling, we really, really liked him. I'm still looking back. I'm surprised that I made the decision to put him in the sale, but the IRS was probably in some stage of audit on me, so they want you to make, at least act like you're making a little money now and then. So we decided, well, this would be a good horse to sell, and we took him to the sale, and just kind of, it's when you enter them, you start regretting entering them, So we went to the sale, and Repole ran him up there pretty good, and that was a nice number. But the instant after the hammer dropped, we were looking for a way to buy back in. And, Mike was very gracious to let us back in on an even Steven deal. We bought him for 50% of the purchase price. So that was a square deal.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, how did your relationship with Mike Repole kind of come to be? What has been your experience with him over the years, and what is it like owning a top horse like this with him?
Well, it's incredible because he really, in spite of his Queens upbringing and background, he's really a very nice guy. He really is. I mean, I'm a Midwestern, right? I'm a hillbilly. So usually we don't have an affinity with New Yorkers, but when you get to know him a little bit, he is very nice. Now, I will say one thing. You can always hear him before you see him. Well, we were waiting for him to we beat him there, and we could hear him out in the hallway, holding court with somebody that he bumped into on the way in before he actually got in there. But, he was very nice to our group, very kind. I really can't say enough good things about the guy. And obviously he's been very successful. He's invested a lot of money, and as you all know very well, that's not the whole thing just to buy the most expensive horse in the sale.
Yeah, right.
Now he may buy half of them, but he seems to keep his discipline as to buying horses, and I think he's also pretty damn lucky, and that always helps. A little bit of luck always helps.
You hear that, Mike? Those scratches on Derby Day. It's luck. That's what it is, buddy. All right, Robert Lowe with us down there, part of the ownership group of Renegade, and bred the horse as well. Look, you're looking forward now at this point. You're thinking Kentucky Derby, of course. You've got it into mischief by a Curlin dam. I mean, you got to be feeling pretty good about the 10 furlongs at this point.
Yeah, we are. I mean, Curlin, gets you that distance, and into mischief, gets you outstanding speed. And I've overheard you all talking about his apparent intelligence. And I think that's remarkable about this horse. You get to know him a little bit, and observing his racing and, in the paddock prior to the race, and then the way he's come along, looking at his prior running lines, I think his intelligence has always been there from the time he's a foal, but I think we're getting smarter. I mean, I don't take anything away from Irad Ortiz, naturally. I think Irad has learned his style, and now he accommodates that style. You noticed the other day, he was a pretty cool customer on the backside, running in the, near the back or at the back of the pack. But this horse understands and communicates with the rider. The rider communicates with the horse, and they really make an awesome combination.
He's out of Spices Nice. I watched her win the 2021 Allaire DuPont handicap. And by the way, I'm not looking at notes. Sean can actually back me up. I just remember that race.
He does not have her up on the screen.
You're the breeder here. What's her temperament like? Did he get some of those mental capacity things from her by chance?
I think so. She was out of Dame Dorothy, who raced for Bobby Fly.
Yeah.
And Todd trained. So, we kind of get a line on, Todd was very high on us buying her. And she ran well, but she is just going to make an outstanding broodmare. So we're really pleased with her. And I think that, the mother always provides something a little special. Males are sperm donors, but the females really give them the upbringing.
Totally agree. Ask my kids. Yeah, there you go.
Well, you mentioned how Irad has now kind of learned him, and that has really kind of helped maybe show some more of Renegade's intelligence here, and just his sportsmanship. How much of that is also brought out by having a guy like Todd Pletcher in his corner, training him every morning?
Well, I mean, there are some excellent trainers, and we respect them and think highly of them. But Todd is, for us, the best person, has the best crew, remains very disciplined to his profession, does it very well. As you know, he's very well spoken. He represents us well, and we're really happy to have him on the team. His dad trained at Oakland way back in the day. So I think Todd has a little affinity to Oakland as well. He's done well there. We wish he'd run a string there because it's just handier than Miami for us. But, we understand. But no, we couldn't be happier with Todd and his entire crew.
Well, what went into the decision after the Sam Davis to end up at the Arkansas Derby? I feel like that's a route we haven't really seen that much. I feel like going from that race into the Arkansas Derby. What led to that choice?
I think the tracks are a lot different, but the way he performed in the Sam Davis and showed us that late turn of foot and those very fast fractions coming home. He's going to be suited to the mile and an eighth, and Todd knows if there's a choice, the Lows are going to want to go to their home track where they grew up, sitting out on the steps, and we just love that place. It's just really gratifying for us, and Todd didn't have to ask.
Well, this was your second Arkansas Derby win. You won with Magnum Moon a few years ago as well. Was it a little, a lot of people always say sometimes the first one you don't get to enjoy it as much just because it's such a surprise. But now that you had been through that experience before, getting to win a second Arkansas Derby after that, did it feel any more special this time around?
Yeah, I think part of it has just been the progression of the horse, watching him improve and watching Irad kind of figure him out. Something Magnum Moon was, a different kind of horse, undefeated going into the Derby, point leader, and a lovely, lovely, courageous horse. We loved him, but I think you do relax a little bit more. When the Arkansas Derby is Kentucky Derby, of course, that's a big prize. We love to win it, but we really enjoyed winning the Arkansas Derby with Magnum Moon, and he was a very nice horse, and we're just so proud of the way he performed.
One of the horses that I've always really liked is Steppenwolfer, who was third in the 2006 Kentucky Derby behind Barbaro and Bluegrass Cat. Just what do you remember about that experience, seeing him run so well in that Kentucky Derby?
Well, we were a little bit nervous, but it was relieved somewhat. He was like 23-1 or something like that, and everybody discounted. He was, a few folks said he's kind of a wise guy horse because he was long-winded. Obviously, to finish up third to Barbaro, but that was very, very exciting. No pressure going in at 23-1, and he really outperformed his odds and did us proud. We love that horse. We love them all. You tell that, but we love Steppenwolfer, and he was our first ticket to the big dance.
So I want to ask Robert a question, and I need you to just understand that this is an old man question for me. Okay. I'm just going to ask an old man question. So Robert, I know everyone is shooting for the first Saturday in May, and I know the Kentucky Derby is the thing that you want, but how you talk about the Arkansas Derby and how I hear people talk about, say, Big Cap Day a couple weeks ago with Nick, those sorts of the big race where your passion for horse racing, came to life. I always think of, I grew up in Big Ten country, Robert, for example. I'm a Midwesterner myself. And I never thought about the national championship for my football team. I just thought, get to the Rose Bowl and win the Rose Bowl. And then we'll figure out the national championship. If the voters vote for him, it's great. Is it kind of like that, Robert, where you've got your like, hey, let's go win the Arkansas Derby. If we get the Kentucky Derby, that's awesome. But hey, I want to win the Arkansas Derby. That's my Derby.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, it's an emotional thing with us. It's, a lifelong goal, an aspirational kind of thing for my wife and I. And you described it very well. It's like it's our Kentucky Derby. Kentucky Derby is still out there. We aspire to that greatly. It'd be wonderful to win, but winning the Arkansas Derby is really what it's all about for us.
Hey, he mentioned Steppenwolf, for a favorite of mine that you had just a couple of years ago. Ran all over the world, but did win the Pegasus World Cup. On the turf side is Colonel Liam.
Yeah.
What's it like? It's a very different world. Those distance turf horses, is it not? Like you never quite know what the outcome's going to be. I gotta admit to you, Robert, when I handicap those races, I kind of just pick the ones that I think are going to be part of the equation at the end.
Yeah. Well, again, a very nice horse. He was kind of an expensive horse to begin with. We bought him as a 2-year-old. But, he just wasn't. And of course, Arkansas Derby's on the dirt, right? And his first 2 dirt starts were disappointing. And so we didn't exactly know what we had, but we had Todd Pletcher. And Todd figured it out, and he got him on the grass, and the rest is history. I mean, he ran, won 3 grade 1s. Which is outstanding. He's standing at Ocala Stud now in Florida.
That's awesome.
And, kind of a limited book of mares. We sent a few down there to breed to him, and they came out looking good. So we're looking forward to some 2-year-olds this year. And he stamps them. I mean, they're big, tall, good looking, kind of reminiscent of Unbridled Song a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And that we're hoping they're runners. I think they are.
7 for 12 lifetime. It's okay that he didn't like the dirt. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, we appreciate you very much. We look forward to seeing you here in Louisville in just a couple of weeks. So safe training and safe travels for sure. How many people do you have to fly to the Derby now?
To Kentucky Derby, it's going to be a good number. It's going to be.
Oh no, Robert! Oh no.
I mean, it's going to get in my pocketbook, but they're all worth it, and the horse is certainly worth it. So we're very excited about it. And winning a race is a lot more fun when you have friends around you. That's what it's all about, really, is celebrating with friends. So we'll enjoy that.
You've done this a couple times now. Do you usually see, like, all of a sudden you start hearing from people you haven't heard from in several years, being like, "Hey, congratulations!
We played football together in high school."
Yeah, you got an extra ticket with you.
They start texting you, and the person's not in my contact list. So beware. I don't know who this is for sure, but no, it's good.
Awesome. Well, Robert, we appreciate it very much. Congratulations. And hopefully we run into you here in Louisville in just a couple of weeks.
I hope so. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, thanks,
Robert Lowe with us, breeder, owner of Renegade. Sean's top pick for the Derby now?
I still love Incredible.
Oh.
He's up there. It's him and Incredible. So
trying to get you I tried to get you to waffle. A little waiver. That's a John Kerry joke from a long time ago. You don't know that joke.
I do not.
Yeah, it's all right. It's okay. You know who knows that joke?
We need to start keeping track of how many references you make that I just don't understand. We need to start making track.
It's amazing too, because look, I'm older than you, but in horse racing, I'm young, right? Like, and so it's very funny to be in horse racing, because many of the people look at me like, "Oh, look at that young whippersnapper with a 9-year-old at home," that kind of thing, right? But you think of me as a very old dad who makes you lunch when you come to my studio to do this show, right? I mean, that's what you think, right?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, and I don't mind it.
I don't know about very old, maybe just really old.
Extraordinarily old. That's exactly right. Well, let's bring in someone who would probably get my jokes. Is anyone else? I'm just kidding. But Karen Johnson from BloodHorse has a very, very cool feature up in the magazine this month, so we wanted to have her on BloodHorse Monday. Welcome in, Karen. How are you?
Thank you. And I'm sure if Sean thinks you're old, he thinks I'm just ancient, in the grave almost, probably. So.
Oh, man. 1 foot in, 1 foot out, Karen. I'll tell you what, it's a whole thing over here at BloodHorse Monday. All right, Karen, for anyone who out there who might not know what your job title is, can you share that and what it entails?
So as a features editor, I work with the writers for the monthly magazine. And this coming issue, the April issue, which is already out. So make sure that you scan your QR code and
yes, ma'am.
that magazine or go to online. One of the features is written by Jay Hovdey, and it's about John Velazquez. And it's about John's past experiences in the Derby, his past wins, how he's on the cusp of, having a record in the Derby for winners. And it's a really, really good feature that dives deep into Johnny's psyche and his personality. And I spoke to Jay about it, and we'll share that soon. We can talk about that when that comes up. Another feature that we have is about Into Mischief, which obviously is timely. I see that you just got done with your interview with Mr. Lowe, and having, Renegade and Into Mischief in there in the Derby. He's another one who is on the cusp of setting a record for siring the most progeny to have won the Derby. And, it's really interesting when you dive into records and old stuff and you see, wow, like things that happened a long time ago are still relevant today. And so, for a young person like Sean, I know that he is a fan of the history of the game as well. So that's pretty cool. And then speaking of the history of the game, Jennifer Kelly wrote a really good, and I should go back and say that Eric Mitchell wrote the Into Mischief piece, and there's nobody better than Eric when it comes to discussing Into Mischief, sires, broodmares, pedigrees. I mean, he's awesome. Then we have a 100-year feature on Bubbling Over, who won the Derby way back when. And Jennifer Kelly wrote that. And Jennifer is a great historian. So she really does deep dives and comes up with these nuggets that are very, very interesting. And it was also fun because Jennifer did a really good job, not only on writing the story, but working with Keeneland Library to get all these black and white photos. And that just kind of, you go down a lane and you're like, wow. And I mean, I wasn't alive for any of that, despite what you may think, Sean.
Yeah, Sean.
I'm just gonna keep catching these all day.
You know what I love is that it's not your fault at all. It's completely me throwing this at you, and Karen's like, I'll join Louie on this one. That sounds great.
Yeah. And then we also have a feature that Alicia Hughes wrote on Godolphin and their excellence as, breeding these homebreds, which and cultivating the mares and their broodmare band. And it's really fascinating. She spoke to many members of the team at Godolphin. And what came across from so many of the people that she spoke to is it's a team effort. One person can't take credit for all of this. It's certainly Sheikh Mohammed, stands at the top there as, putting this together, but a very devoted team that are really keen about the product that they put out. It's a good story.
Okay. I'm going to pause this and compliment Karen. I want everyone to hear those 4 names again. It's Jay Hovdey, who's Jay Hovdey, Eric Mitchell, who is, as Karen described, the perfect person for that article. Jennifer Kelly, who is an unbelievable historian. Her books about like Sir Barton, all that kind of incredible. And then Alicia Hughes, we know what she did at BloodHorse. I mean, this is the quality you get with BloodHorse magazine. And Karen, I mean, to curate something like this, it's got to be, as an editor, it's got to be just the best.
It really is the best. It's fun to work with them coming up with the ideas for the stories because we do that mutually. And also, to read their work. And I have been in the business a long time. And then to read something and say, yay, I didn't know this. Or as a writer myself, to read their fine work, it's really an honor.
Now, a lot of the stories you mentioned, the April magazine, we're approaching the Kentucky Derby. A lot of them are Derby focused. How much advanced planning goes into making sure that we're covering stories that will be important for the time of year, and then especially kind of this pre-Derby issue?
Yes. So the planning, a lot goes into it. Just to give you an example, like right now I'm planning features for the summer and even beyond, a little bit until September. You also don't want to plan a whole magazine around something, and have them locked in, because you want to give, breathing room for what might happen during the classics, right? Because we're coming up to the classics. So, but, because we go to the printer in advance, we do have to have, a plan in place. So it's not just, oh, let's just do this, a lot of planning involved, but I'm good. I have good organizational skills. I'll pat myself on the back for that.
That's paper, Sean. If you didn't know what that was, that's paper. So you go to the printer to print on this. That's what happens. Yes. That's what Karen's describing here. But of course, if you want to subscribe to the magazine, you can just check out the QR code, as Karen was nice enough to say at the beginning of the segment here. If you're watching on Spotify or on YouTube, certainly give us a like, give us a follow on the program as well. Karen, what else should we be watching for in the April edition?
Well, I would say that we have a really cool feature in our special section called Transportation, and our writer, Charlie McCarthy, focused on van agents and farms getting horses to become familiar with the loading process and offloading process of the vans. And I mean, we just take it for granted, like they just go on the vans, there they are. But there is a whole, mechanism to getting it done, because some horses are just very, very stubborn. And as Sean knows, if you're around the backstretch, you'll just see some horses, they're not going to do it, or they freak out. And then you don't want them to have bad first experiences. So the key is really to teach them while they're younger. So that's a feature that I enjoyed reading.
I still can't believe a horse ever gets to the starting gate.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, Karen. These kinds of things, this level of detail, by the way, this is why the magazine's awesome, is stories like this. Like, oh, you have to train a horse, not just how to walk in a paddock or how to run in a circle or do whatever else. You have to train them how to get on the bus to go to the game. Like, this kind of stuff. It's remarkable, Karen. I'm so glad that kind of feature is in there. What are some of the other things people might see in the special feature section?
Well, during the year, each month we'll have a different item. And you know what? The transportation feature, I jumped ahead. That is actually in May. The April edition. I gave a secret out. The April edition is about real estate, that section. And it talks about how these Airbnbs really gain a lot of attraction for meets like the Derby, or let's say the Breeders' Cup, or for Keeneland. And so it's about the rental market and Airbnbs, and how they've supplanted in some ways hotel rooms. And so Charlie, who is a special sections guru, he also talked to a whole bunch of realtors in the area to get that. So that was really kind of interesting to me, how far they book out. I know they do for hotels, but they really do for, the Airbnbs as well, and the other things.
I think the Airbnb market in Baltimore could be a whole magazine. Trying to figure out where to stay for the Preakness is always a journey, Karen. So there you are. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier you had a chance to sit down with Jay Hovdey and talk about the feature that he wrote about John Velazquez in this April edition. Just what can you give us a quick little heads up on what we might hear from him in this interview?
Yeah, so I mean, Jay talked a lot about the different emotions that John had when he won the Derby, particularly with Authentic, when that was during 2020, and that was COVID, and there was a very small group of people at the track, and none of them included Johnny's family, which was a big bummer for Johnny when he went back to the hotel that night. He also talks about this time of year where it's really a lot of moving pieces as who you will ride, and things change. Horses put in performances that maybe won't get them to the Derby. I know that Johnny the other day rode nearly, and who will Johnny be on? We don't know yet, but that's always an interesting part of this year is that time of year, is that scramble, and while trainers are deciding, jockeys are deciding, keeping options open, late defections, right?
Yep. Yeah, and he rode nearly, as you mentioned. He was also board class president in the Rebel,
Yep.
who's going to be coming back this weekend in the Bluegrass. So we'll see if he can maybe punch his ticket there on that one. But
yeah,
if not, we know people are going to be in demand for Johnny V when it comes to the Kentucky Derby.
Iran's already rode 2 100-point winners, so I think there's going to be some availability for Kentucky Derby runners.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Karen, for jumping in with us and previewing the magazine. And we are looking forward to hearing your conversation here with Jay.
Thanks, guys. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Karen.
And now here is that interview with Jay Hovdey about John Velazquez.
I am Karen Johnson. I am the editor of the BloodHorse Monthly magazine, and I am joined today by Jay Hovdey, the senior columnist at BloodHorse. And Jay has written a terrific feature for our April issue, which is actually our Derby preview issue. And his feature was on John Velazquez, and our Hall of Fame rider, beloved by many, a fierce competitor. Jay and I have been interviewing Johnny for years. And welcome in, Jay. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Karen, very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and always good to talk about one of our true stars, John Velazquez.
Before we get to this interview that you did with Johnny for this feature, over the years, you must have had many occasions to interview him. I know you were based on the West Coast, but obviously, and he's on the East Coast, but there's Breeders' Cups and he travels out to California. You've traveled to New York for big races. What do you recall about some of your first encounters with Johnny?
Well, the first thing I had to do was get the spelling of his last name right, because we were so used to George Velazquez with an S, which is the Panamanian spelling. Johnny V was Velazquez with a Z, so he was distinct from the moment that we really that he broke cover for us and became one of the top New York riders. He started to travel, of course, and we didn't get to see him on the West Coast nearly enough. Breeders' Cups, of course, but there was a long period of time we didn't have any Breeders' Cups on the West Coast. And then he started showing up here with regularity, connections with the Bob Baffert stable, with other stables that took advantage of him whenever he was in town. And I mean, he just classed up the room. He was, you could say he was outspoken, but whenever he was outspoken about anything, you listened. It was not just steam. And still is that way. He was the chairman of the Jockeys Guild for a long time for a reason. His leadership qualities were unmatched among his peers. So it's just always been one of those refreshing moments when you see Johnny V come in the room, and even if you don't have to talk to him after a stakes race, you're going to want to talk to him anyway.
For sure. And another thing, when he speaks, he's so passionate about what he's speaking about, whatever it may be. I remember way back in the day when I was working for the Racing Form, I had to interview him after there was some sort of brouhaha in the jockeys room. And there were several jockeys involved, and he was amongst them. So the first person that I wanted to talk to was Johnny. So, I went down there, and he speaks so fast. His English is great, very rapid fire talking, and he's telling me, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I said, okay, well, thanks. Now I've got to go talk to so-and-so. And he threw up his hands and he said to me, you have to talk to somebody else. It was almost as if I'm the man, you've talked to me. And it was so funny. And I explained to him, I said, well, to be fair in my reporting, I have to talk to other people. And it was just a funny moment. And we actually kind of still laugh about that.
We usually get all we need from John.
Well, it's true. I probably didn't need to go to talk to anybody else. When you set up this interview to do with Johnny, what were some of the things that you set out to accomplish in the interview?
Well, John is still a work in progress, of course. I mean, reflection is not something that he does just as a matter of course. I mean, you can sit down Mike Smith, and he'll take you back and take you on a great journey of conversations, held long ago and encounters, and it's just like opening up an American racing manual. Johnny V is always on the go doing something, and so I caught up with him at various times to talk with him about primarily, since this is a Kentucky Derby preview edition, he has a chance this year to tie Bill Shoemaker as the second most Derby wins by a jockey in history. That's a pretty big accomplishment if he can get over the top this year. He's got a few irons in the fire, ready to go to choose from. So we'll see if he can equal Shoemaker's record. So we went over his other Derby wins, especially the association with Todd Pletcher, Super Saver, and of course with Animal Kingdom picking that one up at the last minute after the injury to Robbie Alvarado. Each one of his Derby wins, of course, with any rider, has a great story behind it, and so I wanted him to tell those stories.
The one thing that I was really struck by was when he talked about the authentic Derby win in 2020. And of course, as we all remember, that was the year of the pandemic, and the Derby was run in September. And it was behind closed doors. There weren't any fans in the stands. And a quote that he gave you, and his family couldn't be with him for that day. So he said that he went back to the hotel room, and tell me, you remember, what did he say to you?
Well, he was, of course, elated by winning the Kentucky Derby, just at all. But the fact that he couldn't share it with his family, with Leona and his wife and his two children, that was left a big hole in his heart, and he shed a tear just for their absence, for no fault of anyone's.
Right. Yeah, he said he cried like a baby, and that was just such a very poignant quote for me that it's like still rambling around in my mind, and again speaks to his passion and his emotion.
We talked about that COVID year a little bit more because it was so unusual for everyone. The fact that he won the September Derby that year puts an asterisk by everything that happened. But I asked him, how was your health that year? He says, I was very healthy. I was on airplanes. Every time I got home, I quarantined myself. And then I thought back at some point, and it was kind of like after the fact, that I did mention his terrible injury at the Breeders' Cup of 2013 at Santa Anita, when the filly he was riding broke down on the far turn, and he had to go to the hospital. And among the several injuries he had his spleen removed. Well, when you lose your spleen, that's part of your immune system that generates the kinds of ingredients that help you stay healthy. So from 2013 on, Johnny has been susceptible to illnesses that we are not. So the fact that he stayed so healthy and managed to achieve so much adds another layer to the kind of discipline he's got, and really speaks to his the example he sets for younger riders too. That my horses have won $500 million, but it wasn't easy, and this is how you do it if you want to stay in the game.
Absolutely. Moving on to who he may be aboard this year. We're pre-recording this a few days before the Monday before the Florida Derby, and he's riding nearly in the Florida Derby. That was his Holy Bull winner. Then he has some other horses that he might also be involved in. Before we wrap this up, what are your thoughts on where it stands today? Because things get really crazy, and it's an unusual time for riders, right?
Well, it is. I think you can pretty much guarantee that Johnny will be on a Todd Pletcher horse in the Derby. That's been his main man, his main ride in the Derby for a long time, and so went Pletcher's sort of bad luck in the Derby for so many years. Johnny was kind of hooked onto that wagon as well, but they both broke through pretty effectively, and Nearly is certainly a horse that Johnny's got a lot of faith in. We'll see what happened in the Florida Derby and go on from there. The jockeys this time of year, they leave it open until the last of the preps are in, the headline jockeys anyway. And we, anymore, we don't really get to figure out much. So they may only have like one race on which to base their judgment, unless it's a client that they're always going to ride for anyway. But you've got the 1-2 finishers at just about every prep are going to be qualifying. The late preps will be qualifying for the Derby, and those jockeys are going to be the ones that are going to mix and match on those horses. There's very few jockeys right now that are tied firmly to a particular saddle.
That's what makes this time of year so interesting. Jay, thank you so much for joining us. And I urge everybody to read this feature. Anything that Jay writes is must read for me. Well, I'm the editor, but even if I didn't have to read it, I would be reading it. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Thank you, Karen, very much. And good luck to everyone out there. Take care.
All right. Thanks again to Karen and to Jay Hovdey for being part of BloodHorse Monday. Karen ties for the second most outfits in a history of BloodHorse Monday. 2.
Yeah. We never done enough segments to where we've been in 3. You did do 3? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. It's okay. Sorry. Yeah. British Cup. It's okay.
Yeah, we'll probably, honestly, coming up, some of the stuff we're doing for Derby. Probably,
for sure.
We're going to be mix and matching pieces for that.
So these are the conversations I love, by the way, because if you're a guy like me and you've been podcast radio side of things, you don't have a podcast that's affiliated with a place that has a magazine, that has a daily, mm-hmm. that has a website with as many viewers as we do at BloodHorse. And people like Karen, who are excellent at what they do and are excited about these stories, right? And by the way, it's Jennifer Kelly's birthday. I almost forgot that. Happy birthday, Jennifer. And thank you for being part of the magazine. But just to get to work with those 4 or 5 people, frankly, if we throw in the special, the special part too, that's the good stuff. But it's why BloodHorse is different. It's why I wanted to do this show, because Eric Mitchell's at BloodHorse and nowhere else. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's what it is. And so those kinds of things and people like Karen, and it's a testament to what happens at BloodHorse. And frankly, I hope that interview for people that have been on the fence about the magazine, just go get it.
Yeah.
It's great. The photos are great. Stuff like the Jennifer Kelly piece where she's going and finding old black and white photos at the Keeneland Library
mm-hmm.
that you can just have in your house. That's cool. That's the good stuff for sure. Appreciate Karen. Anything stand out what Jay said?
Well, no, it's just that it's always interesting to kind of hear, Jay's obviously been around the game for a long time. He's one of the best raters that we have in this game. And just to kind of hear some of his experiences of, kind of talking with Johnny throughout his career and kind of seeing how Johnny's career has unfolded to the point where it is now. I just think that's always kind of cool to, we can talk all day about how great John Velazquez is, but to hear the perspective of somebody who has written about him for pretty much his entire career and has had those conversations with him, to see how he has grown over the years, to see him start off, kind of small and then getting to the point where he's now won as many Kentucky Derbies as he has. I just think it's always cool to hear that kind of perspective from people.
A remarkable career for John Velazquez.
Yeah.
And you and I were just at Turfway the other day for Ruby Day, and he won 3 stakes races in a row.
Yeah.
Just did it. It's just, he's still very much at the top of the game. It's a remarkable thing about our sport that guys like him, Mike Smith, etc., that Mike Smith, friend of the show, frankly, those guys are able to figure out what they, what works for them and keeps them in shape. Whenever we talk to Mike, he's always at the gym, right?
Yeah.
So the physical part of this, we talk about losing a spleen and having to change that kind of thing about your lifestyle, your what you can eat, what you have to do to be in shape. Because these guys, the restrictions on the lifestyle is stunning.
Yeah.
To keep weight and all that stuff, but to also stay strong, right? To keep muscle but not weight is really not easy to do. Here's the last part. Sean, I was at the 2020 Derby.
Yep.
And I have 2 thoughts on it. The first is I'm glad I was there.
Mm-hmm.
The second is I never want to do that again. And to hear that it was as sad for Johnny B and a little bit worse makes me realize that I had a very similar experience to him Now, I didn't win the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, I think your experience differed a little bit. But
going through a National Guard gun post and having a dog rifle through our car while we were getting into Churchill Downs because there was a threat of violence,
mm-hmm.
and then a shooting happening outside of Churchill Downs during the races, it was a weird day.
Yeah.
It was a very, very weird day. And again, glad I got to do radio on that day, but I never want to go to a Derby like that ever again.
Yeah.
2,000 people at the Derby is not what I ever want to do again. That ain't the Kentucky Derby. And September ain't it either. And so I don't ever want to do that again, but it is fitting in our sport in this era that it was Johnny V who won it.
Yes, it was.
It's absolutely fitting.
Yeah.
And so that part at least is great. Interview sounds awesome. I can't read it. I can't wait to get the magazine and read it.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's going to be the April magazine.
Yep.
Should be coming out now. I believe the digital version should probably be out now, and then hopefully you'll be getting those in the mail here pretty soon. The hard copies. Make those coffee tables look nice, as you always
Exactly
say.
right. Make it look nice. Get that.
I really want to see the photos of bubbling over. Me being a Kentucky Derby
Yes,
nerd.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As soon as she said bubbling over, I was like, ooh. Can't wait to look at those.
My brain was like, wait a minute. Oh, Derby winner, right? your brain to be like, Derby winner.
Ooh. 19.
What year?
1926. I mean, she said it was the 100th anniversary, but I mean, I could have told you that anyway.
Well, can you okay, we're going to try this, folks. And if this happens, then we're just going to keep doing this as a segment. Are you ready?
Boy.
Who was bubbling over? Is that the name of the horse?
Yep.
Sire.
Oh, that I know the winners, not the sires.
Okay. Jockey?
I do not know the jockey.
Trainer?
I know the horses' names, but I can picture.
Is that
the
like
owners.
a Calumet and we just like default to Calumet?
I can picture the owner's silks. It's the white with the green across, the green stripes going across.
See, this is
the green helmet.
Okay, all right.
I don't know what the owner's name is, but I know that he had 4 Kentucky Derby winners. He named every single one of his horses beginning with the letter B.
Okay.
So I believe he had Behave Yourself, Bubbling Over, Burgoo King, and yeah. I'll get Broker's Tip was the other one. Yeah.
The inside the Derby mind of Sean needs to be something we do.
I know. I got to work on learning all the human connections of the pre me being alive ones, but I know all the horses' names. So
and it's not like Isaac Murphy or something like where the old school jockey name, that kind of thing, where you would be able to do that sort of thing. But you should look it up while we're here so that the nice people listening and watching. I want to make sure that we give they don't have to go look it up. Here. Yeah. So all right. So North Star is
Edward Bradley is the owner.
Edward Bradley. So the B is for Bradley.
Yeah, and he would name all of his horses with a B at the starting.
How many Derbies did Herbert J. Thompson win as a trainer? We're going to find out. He's from Flint, Michigan. How about that? Are you serious?
A member of the Horse Racing Hall of Fame. He won all 4 of those Kentucky Derbies: Behave Yourself, Bubbling Over, Burgoo King, and Broker's Tip. Also won the Preakness in 1932 and the Belmont in 1929. And
born in Detroit, baby. How about that? Fellow Detroiter. Let's go.
Was it Menson who is jockey? I know where we can find the jockey. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay. Just so much work from young Sean Collins here. A reminder about the magazine. Go check it out. There is a link at the homepage, at the top of the homepage, bloodhorse.com. Click on the magazine tab. And if you haven't signed up for the daily, check it out there as well.
Jockey was, I clicked away from it. Jockey was Albert Johnson. And Colonel Bradley, he owned Idle Hour Stock Farm Stable was the name of his ownership group. So
there you go.
Yep. Or his farm. So yeah, there you go.
All right.
See, but it's funny like how sometimes you don't remember the names of the people, but like you remember the fact about them. So I remember that every single one of his horses was bees. I can picture his silks very vividly. But we need to get Barry Northern on this show for that. Greatest tour guide in Kentucky Derby Museum history, Barry Northern. He has all that kind of information locked up in his brain. So
knows that, not his wife's favorite color, like I know many things about college basketball that I don't need to know. It's exactly right. They're going to be running Derby preps this weekend, Sean.
They are, yes.
They have not drawn them as of today in all of the spots, but the Wood Memorial is drawn.
Mm-hmm.
And we at least know who's going to be in that field. A massive field of 13.
Yes, and a poor iron honor stuck all the way on the outside.
Okay, so if you ever wanted to know if horse racing was rigged or not, I think this is the evidence that it's not.
Yeah,
is that poor Iron Honor draws the 13 in this race. He will run. That's not an AE spot. That is running.
Mm-hmm.
And so he will be in this field. Others that you know, of course, Butane. We last saw him in the Virginia Derby. Didn't quite work out there. Out of the Baffert barn before that in the Southwest. Bravaro's in here. We saw him in the Fountain of Youth up the track. Before that, though, a much better effort in the Holy Bull. Red Zone Runners coming in here. It's a Pennsylvania bred. Once in a while on the East Coast, you get these. He was a massive winner in parks in the slop. They're praying it's going to rain on Saturday. Get him in there. Courting is in here. This is one we were watching. He was in that Remsen and frankly was amongst the favorites alongside Paladin and Renegade. By the way, the Remsen again, my goodness, that race. If you have a serious 3-year-old, don't go to the Breeders' Cup. Go to the Remsen.
Yeah.
Or a serious 2-year-old, excuse me.
Or do both.
Or do both.
They are a month apart.
Gosh almighty. It's unbelievable. Kendrick gets a ride there. Carmouche for Todd Pletcher. I mean, this turned into, let's be clear about this. The Wood Memorial, people do not respect right now because it has been a long time since a winner has come out of the Wood Memorial. The last winner of the Wood to go back and win the Kentucky Derby, Fusaichi Pegasus in 2000. But this is a very good field. And the sad thing that happened was last year, I think we had 2 good runners out of the Wood that both got hurt before the Derby. I think Rodriguez was going to be part of the early pace. And if you want to go ahead and down to Baffert on the front in the Derby, want to go ahead and do that? Okay, just checking.
Well, and then Grande, look at how good he's been coming back.
Has been fantastic since he returned. So I think we kind of just missed out on the Wood. Anyone stand out to you in this group?
Well, I think there's a couple questions to be answered here. I'm a little surprised that they're bringing back Butane in this spot.
I agree.
Now, if you remember last week when we had Corbin on, he was talking about litmus test and going on to the Derby, depending on how he did in the Arkansas Derby. He mentioned, Bob Baffert's kind of one of those trainers that if he doesn't feel like the horse is one of his top horses, he's not just going to run him in the Derby for the sake of running them in the Derby. And so to see that he's giving Butane another chance to potentially end up in the Derby does tell me that he does think pretty highly of this horse, that they're going to give him another shot to see whether or not he can do it here. I'm interested to see how he does in this as well. He's not lived up to some of the expectations that have been placed on him at the early half of the year. Maybe this is the time he gets it done, but he is stuck in a pretty bad post as well out there in post 12. I know they don't run a mile on Nave too often at Aqueduct, but from what I remember, I mean, that's pretty much right by the
start line, finish line.
Yeah, right by the turn there.
Yep.
So both him and Iron Honor are going to be in tough. This could be one of those races where we could get a big long shot that maybe gets that ground saving trip and is able to pull something out
like
here.
every Wood Memorial except for last year.
Yeah, pretty much. Napoleon Solo obviously is going to be interesting here as well. We have not seen a lot of the pre-Breeders' Cup race winners running very well.
Correct.
Now, obviously, we didn't get to see Ted Nafi come back, but we haven't really seen that much from them. And even like the horses that were competitive in that, like Blackout Time has not come back to be that same kind of horse. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not he rebounds. He does get back to Aqueduct where he won the Champagne. I'm sure that's going to be a big help for him as well. Talk to me, Jimmy. I think we're going to find out whether or not that Withers was legit.
I'm rooting for this horse like crazy. Yeah. I want to be very clear. This is a $31,000 purchase, a $5,000 breeding job in New York. Yeah. This is what I want in the Derby. These are the stories that I want in the Derby. I want to see Ruben Silvera in the freaking starting gate for the Kentucky Derby. That's what I want. I want Rudy Rodriguez down here bouncing around, having a great time with this son of modernist. That's what I'm rooting for. And by the way, horse has already shown it. Already shown it in the Withers. And frankly, he's geared down and finishes in 151 and change. It's not a winning time in the Wood. But if you can get that down a second just by not being geared down, you're going to be right there.
Yep.
Talk to me, Jimmy's already got points, man. What does he need here? Second place, third place here?
Yeah, he's got 20 points from that win in the Withers. So let's see, a third place finish at 25 points puts him probably right on that bubble at 45.
Right on the bubble.
First or second to be comfortable, 40 or third to feel like you got a shot.
Probably.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not how legit that performance was. But he's improved every single race that he's ran. So
I wonder how many Preakness and Belmont starters are in this Wood Memorial.
Probably at least 1 or 2.
For sure, right?
Yeah.
Because let's say it doesn't work out for Iron Honor, and let's say it's the post. Yeah. Like he just can't overcome post position. We've seen this horse. I know what he can do. That's a 3-year-old that I want back on the track in a major high-level graded stakes if I'm in the ownership. And so that part, I don't think is a crazy thing. There's some others in here as well. Otino's in here. That's when we saw Break It's Made only ever run at Aqueduct. Was up the track in that Withers. They're going to throw the blinkers on is Chad Brown, and I think that's purely he's going to say to Dylan, we got to be way closer. Right?
Well, you just say up the track, but Talk to Me Jimmy really ran off there. So,
everyone was up the track.
Yeah, everyone was. He was only a half length away from being second place.
It's a grittiness who people do like.
And so definitely could see a big performance from him as well coming up this weekend. Another one you mentioned, courting earlier. This is a full sibling to Clairiere.
Yes,
we all know
right.
how good she is.
Yep.
So if he could put
Son
it
of
together,
Curlin Bernardini mare there.
Yep. So cavorting on the
Yep.
dam there. So we'll see how he does. Bravaro, see if he can bounce back off of the Fountain of Youth. He was a good second in the Holy Bull. Him getting back to another New York bred, him getting back to New York, putting the blinkers on this time will be interesting to see what Safi can get out of him here. It always feels like Safi's got that one horse that manages to get into the Derby by running like second or third.
There it is.
Well, second or third in this last round of preps. Usually it's the Florida Derby, but this year maybe it's the Wood. You think back to like Neo Equos last year and some of the other ones that he's had. He always seems to get a horse into the starting gate right here at the very end. Bravaro could be that horse. He's already sitting at 20 points. So again, runs third, just like Talk to Me Jimmy. That puts him right on that bubble there. If we get a couple more horses that, start contrast that decides to go to the turf, or, I heard Steve Asmussen had said something the other day about how they were debating whether Chip Honcho would go to the Derby or the Preakness. So, there's a possibility we might have a couple horses that decide not to participate in the Kentucky Derby. And so if you're sitting at that 45 points, that will hopefully get you in. Right now, if you factor in the 3 invites to the European Mid-East Road and the Japan Road to the Derby, right now the point bottom is Greediness at 36. So, and we got 300 point to the winter prep races this weekend. I think something that really helped out some of these horses on the bubble this weekend was having Commandment and the Puma run 1-2 and take those points.
Take the 150 points.
Because they were already in by points. And so to take those points, I think that really helped out a lot of these horses that are going to be on the bubble when we get there.
If you're a Potente and you throw in a clunker this weekend, you could probably still go to the Derby, right? Yep. That kind of thing. Like it's for them, it was really good that those were the 50-point winners was the Puma in this case, like you point out.
Yeah.
I'll be at the Bluegrass on Saturday. You'll be at the Wood. So that's why I'm talking about it as much as I am. By the way, tons of previews of all of these things up at bloodhorse.com between the Santa Anita Derby, the Wood Memorial, of course, and the Bluegrass. I'll be at the Bluegrass. He'll be at the Wood. We'll report back on Monday. You'll hear from me and Joe Perez after the race at Keeneland. My friend Barry Spears will be alongside. We'll be live 11 o'clock a.m. on the Horse Racing Happy Hour, by the way. And my friend Bob Ehol from BloodHorse will be on with me 1 o'clock on Thursday with Steve Kornacki previewing the Wood on the Horse Racing Happy Hour as well. I'm fascinated by this weekend, Sean, because 2 of these preps we think of as not great indicators for success in the Kentucky Derby, except that owners and trainers have just decided they don't care about that with Keeneland. Mm-hmm. So with the Bluegrass, people are like, the Paladin was planning to ship there. He had looked good at other tracks. He was already there. Well, he was planning to run there. Excuse me, not ship there, but run there. And what I'm getting at is people don't see the historical record of runners in the Bluegrass as an impediment to winning the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
Just go run and qualify, and we'll figure it out at Churchill. The Wood, I think, does have that, though. I think people don't go up to New York.
People don't look at that with the top horses
yet. But because they don't, I wonder if we went in a cycle where for a little while people saw the Wood as that's not the way we're going to win the Derby. We're not going to go there. And now people see it as, oh, that means those top horses aren't there. We can qualify for the Derby by being in a second level prep. I'm not putting the Wood down at all, by the way. But if it's a second level prep in the eyes of the owners and they're willing to go to Keeneland, they're willing to run in Arkansas, why wouldn't you try the Wood?
Yeah.
If you own some of these horses that we've brought up, if you own a Talk to Me Jimmy, why the bleep are you going to the Arkansas Derby? There's no reason, right? There's no reason to go to the Bluegrass, right? And so it is interesting watching the trends of those races as well. We haven't mentioned the Santa Anita Derby yet. Are you ready for what I think happens?
Yes.
I think Robusto wins the Santa Anita Derby.
You think so? I like that take.
And I think Potente's right there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Potente easily qualifies for the Derby. And then we have to make a decision. Do we take a non-winning Baffert on top in the Derby out of the Santa Anita Derby? I think we're all going to have that question because I think Potente at 10 furlongs is a problem. I think he's going to love it.
It worked for Medina Spirit for at least for paying out the point where you got paid for it. I was in on that.
He crossed the line first. Yes. 14-1 is 14-1. That's exactly right.
I got my $28 there, or $30. So.
But out west, Robusta, we got Potente and some other runners out there. That should be a fun one out at Santa Anita as well. We'll recap all those next Monday here on BloodHorse Monday. You're headed to New York. When do you go to New York?
I leave Thursday to head to my dad's in Pennsylvania, and then I'll be up in New York on Saturday.
Are you driving?
No, I'll be flying.
Okay. All right. Okay.
It's the difference of he's going with me, so I don't have to worry
He
about
has a
bringing the
car.
car.
Right. Yeah, okay. Okay.
No, but I am very much looking forward to this weekend. So obviously I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
In high school, my dad and I would go up to Aqueduct all the time for the Derby preps, the Jerome, the Withers, the Gotham, and the Wood Memorial. And so I haven't been to the Wood Memorial the last couple of years because I've been out here in Kentucky and I've been staying for the Bluegrass. But I had to go do the last Wood Memorial at
I went to the 100th last year. You'll go to the last one at Aqueduct.
So
I think that's appropriate.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm looking forward. Well, not that I'm looking forward to being the last one at Aqueduct, but I'm looking forward to being there for that race.
Your dad more of a grandstand guy or an equestrian guy?
Grandstand.
Okay.
I'm sure if we asked him what equestrian is, he wouldn't know.
How about that? Really?
Yeah, we've never gone up there. We just always stayed down, either on the ground level watching or sit up in the seats.
Cool piece of Aqueduct lore. When they opened Equestris, it was the largest restaurant in the city of New York.
I did hear that.
How about that?
Yep.
That's awesome.
And I also, so I never really paid much attention to it either since we never went up there. The only reason I knew what you were talking about when you said it is because somebody was just talking with me at Oaklawn about Equestris when I was there this past weekend.
The only reason I know it is because I've done radio in Equestris. So there you are.
I just feel like, oh yeah, there's a dining room there. I wouldn't have known what the name
right.
of it was. But,
Yeah.
but yes, I did. They mentioned that too, that used to be the largest dining room in New York.
It was pretty remarkable. Is Sean more of a pizza guy or a bagel guy? We'll find out next week.
The BloodHorse is dedicated to the improvement of thoroughbred breeding and racing for over 100 years. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and save BloodHorse Monday on all your platforms. For the latest news, analysis, and insights, visit us at bloodhorse.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.